All right. This is Travis here with Moving Mountains. I head kind of the research and the SEO side of the company here, and I just wanted to give you a rundown. I know we're going to be breaking down the 9 different stages that we have here, going over the roadmap to online domination. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be breaking down, doing a video similar to this, letting you guys know the ins and outs of what's really going on and what a pro company does to dominate online and get you a ton of leads. So in this video specifically, we're going to focus on stage 1, which is the research and development. So let's just dive right in. So in the research and development stage, we're going to be looking at a handful of things. So one of the first things we're going to look at is the exploration form. So we call this our exploration form on our end, but basically it's what we'll dive in a little bit more in detail, but it's the questions you need to ask yourself to know the ins and outs of your business. So you know what kind of traffic you need to get to develop what kind of leads that will turn into what kind of cash. So we're going to look at a research spreadsheet template that we're going to give to you guys. Basically, our team uses this and puts all of the info that we put together here into the spreadsheet, and you guys can use it too. It's really, really handy to not only organize while you're doing the research, but in 6 months, a year, 2 years, look back on a campaign and say, okay, this is where we're at in the beginning. Look at the growth now. Next thing we're going to look at is keyword research. What is it? How do we do it? How do we determine what a good keyword is based off competition, all sorts of different stuff. So search volume, stuff like that. We're going to do a site analysis. So we're going to look at your website. We're going to dive into it, use a bunch of tools, determine where you're at on authority levels, what Google likes about you, what it doesn't like about you, and hit some key points that you need to optimize for so that you're rewarded by Google by doing all of this stuff. Then we'll look at competition. So a competition analysis, what we need to do is really, we need to know exactly what the top ranking sites are doing, and then we need to do something very similar to that and then build upon it. So this competition analysis is extremely important. Next thing we're going to do, so over the course of this whole video, at the very end, we'll have all the information needed to put together a strategy for a full campaign. So that's the kind of overview there. Let's dive in though. So step 1, we're going to look at inside of our step 1 of the roadmap to online domination. I believe there were 6 steps here. Exploration form. So what questions do we need to ask ourselves to know where we're going in the future or what we need to do? Question number 1, what website platform are you using? This is extremely important because there's a lot of limitations with other sites. Maybe you're using a free website builder like GoDaddy, or maybe you're using one of the smaller monthly membership sites like Wix or Squarespace, or there's hundreds of them. And then we want to eventually work up, as we get more serious, into a permanent platform like WordPress or a custom platform, because there's many, many benefits to that. So figure out what website platform, figure out how many leads you need each month. So if you need 100 people to call you, then that's 100 leads, right? If you need that, will develop into X amount of sales. So you got to know your numbers so that you can do this research here and say, X amount of people are searching for us. We're going to convert, 2 to 3%, sometimes 5, into some phone calls. And then, it kind of breaks down that way. And then you figure out exactly how many your sales team can close, how much money you can develop off of different strategies. Next thing, we need to look at your top 5 competitors. You need to just list them out, because we're going to use that in our research stage, in our research here down the road. So top 5 competitors ranking online. So that's going to, maybe you're a roofer, maybe you're a dentist, something like that. You go to your city plus the services that you're looking for. So dentist, Dallas. Dallas dentist, Austin roofer, something like that, Miami roofing, keywords like that. You put those in, and then you gather the top ranking competitors. So we'll just use 5 because 4 or 5 will give you a good understanding of if they're already showing up in the top positions, then Google has awarded them. They're doing something right, and we need to mimic that. what cities do you want to service? So just like I said, is it Austin? Is it Dallas? Are you in Chicago? Are you in Portland, Oregon? Are you in Portland, Maine? You know, wherever it is, maybe it's a smaller group of cities or suburbs that you want to target because that's where the money's at. We need to know those cities, and you need to make note of them and try not to stray away from that as you're doing your research, because there's 1,000 loopholes we can go in while we're doing our research. Now, what product do you want to sell more of? Is it root canals? Is it new roofs? Is it financial services? You know, what is it? Do you want to sell more cheeseburgers? You know, we need to know exactly that. You need to write down these things so that we have them, so we don't stray, like I'll mention 100 times throughout this video while we're doing the research. Next thing, let's look at this research template. So we're going to give you this. It's, you know, super easy to use. It'll be, you can use it in Google Sheets, you can use it on whatever you want, Word doc or anything on your computer. We use Google Sheets here at Moving Mountains. It's just super handy to share with the team. So it'll look very, very similar to this. So this is obviously slightly filled out, but basically in column A here, you'll see at the very top, we usually put your URL. You know, is that HTTPS? With or without the S, you know, we want to know exactly what you're using, because that's the URL that your website loads on. That's what Google gives credit. Now, there's a bunch of variations of that. Just type it into Google and see what loads, and then you can copy and paste it into there. DA is a metric that we'll talk about down the road. We need to keep track of that. We need to keep track of how many links. We need to keep track of your platform, a bunch of different stuff here. So in column A, you've got keywords there. A few rows down under that, we're going to list out the different keywords as we work through this process. We're going to do keyword research. We're going to find the different keywords in different cities. Then in column B, we're going to track the search volume. I'll show you a little bit more of that in a minute. And then cost per click for advertising, and then difficulty score. And then you can fill out the rest of them as you want. So maybe in column H over there, you've got notes that say Tampa roofing looks really hard, or Tampa roofing is wide open. Let's totally go for that. It makes sense for our budget and the outcome and how many leads we need. You know, you're going to find the perfect match here. In column E, F, and G, these are kind of use at your discretion. Current rankings is going to say maybe on this date you were number 2 already, so skip that keyword, because you know the outcome's not going to be that crazy if you put a bunch of effort into it and you're already ranking there. But if the other keyword was ranking in number 50, then you know you can put a bunch of money into that, a bunch of effort, a bunch of optimization, and that would be worth it on the outcome based on the search volume. So that kind of gives you a good idea of how we lay out notes and the different metrics here. Down a little bit lower, we've got service area. We've got Tampa listed there, but you would put all the different areas. You know, you can make that bigger, you can make it smaller if you want to go after 15 cities. At one point, we were going after hundreds. So you can make this as big as you want and then have as many keywords as you want above it. And this will kind of keep you on track, so you don't forget when you go back and say, oops, I forgot to do research for Boise, Idaho, or whatever it is. Down below, we've got research links. So Ahrefs is a program that we'll look at here, and I got some screenshots here in a bit we'll look at, but basically you can put direct links to your previous research you've done, so that you can keep track. At any given time, you can come back and click on it and say, okay, this is the stats right now, and then let's compare them to the rest of the information on the spreadsheet that is dated and says, okay, on September 2nd, 2016, we were here, today we're there. So that's kind of it. And then you can check the competition analysis as well. There's a separate link down there at the bottom, and really see what's going on. So this spreadsheet is something we developed in-house. It's very simple, but it's used, I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of these in folders. We have one for every single campaign that we've ever worked on. So extremely, extremely handy. Next thing we're going to go over is our research tools. So what tools are we going to do or to use to find the information we need to fill out that previous spreadsheet? So one of the first ones is free. It's amazing, actually. It's a Chrome extension. They probably have a Firefox version, but I don't think they have a Safari version. And Internet Explorer, I'm not sure how many people are using that. So I'm not going to talk about that. But So Chrome extension, there's billions of people that are using Chrome, so use Chrome. Why not? Keywords everywhere. So this is basically it loads over the top. I'll show you examples here in a little bit, but basically it loads whenever you search anything on your desktop in Google, and it will give you search volume and how much people are spending on AdWords and that kind of stuff. And then you can kind of estimate things and fill out that spreadsheet, the previous spreadsheet. So next tool is Moz. So Moz created this metric called domain authority, or DA, that we're going to talk about over and over and over again, and we're always using it, or a version of it whenever we do research. Moz is a huge SEO company, so are all these, but Ahrefs is another one. These guys are hands down the best ones to mimic the information that basically they have the best bots out there that scan the internet and report back data in a beautiful dashboard that we use over and over again. Next thing is SEMrush. I don't believe we're going to talk too much on it, but this is really great. Just like Ahrefs, SEMrush does very similar things, just different companies. And we like to cross-reference a bunch of tools so that we're not saying anything goofy. You know, when we present data or build a campaign, we're always double-checking. Sometimes numbers will be a little low or a little high, and you want to do your numbers and run your numbers over and over and over again, so you're not under or overestimating anything. You can also see what other people are advertising, which is really good. You can get examples of ads, tons of crazy stuff in there. Next phase, so keyword research. I love this guy. I love that computer too. Floppy disks. Anyway, keyword research. So what data points do we need to hit or get to fill out that previous spreadsheet while we're doing our keyword research? So we need to figure out cost per click. So we're going to use cost per click to kind of calculate search volume plus cost per click and see what it would cost to do AdWords. So if we wanted 500 people to visit our website, what would it cost per click to get people there? And then you kind of estimate a daily, monthly, weekly, whatever you want budget. That's really good to hold up against SEO, because usually SEO is what we're really good at. We have people that are really good at AdWords as well. AdWords just tends to be very expensive. So it's a great thing to test a market and make sure that you do want to, set up a new shop there or whatever. Next data point is going to be search volume, or SV as we call it. CPC is abbreviation of cost per click up there. Those little acronyms are super important to us. We abbreviate everything, and there's hundreds of them in the business world, and especially marketing. So search volume. Search volume is an estimated basically number of how many people are searching for an exact keyword per month. Now that's an estimate of the previous 12 months. And a lot of people say different things about them. Some people say it's 10% of what's actually going on. Some people say it's 100%. A lot of times when you end up ranking for a term and it says 160 people a month are searching for it, it might be 10 times that, because Google just sits on these numbers. But still, we like to use the lowball number and then add up a bunch of keywords, and then we know a great estimate of search volume and an estimated traffic to your website, so we can run numbers and talk about conversion and figure out how much money it is possible to make by doing a campaign. Domain authority, or DA, is something that Moz created a while back, and it's kind of a variation of years and years and years ago. There used to be a thing called PR, which was PageRank, and that was straight from Larry Page, Sergey Brin, I believe I'm saying the right guys, one of the co-founders of Google there, created a metric that was an authority level of a website. Now that died years ago. They quit updating it because that's what Google does. They create things and they don't talk about them ever again or update them. So Moz came out. Moz is a huge name in the space. They came out and said, DA, they created a tool that said, DA, this is our updated version of it. Now, since then, people have strayed away from DA. We use other tools that do other estimates of DA, and we use them in combination with like SEMrush, Ahrefs, and Moz. So we don't specifically use domain authority only. There's a lot of other tools, but DA is a metric that we refer to, even though Moz created it. That's what we call it. Page authority. So domain authority was the authority level of your whole website, and all the pages on the website combined to make your DA. Now, every single individual page has a page authority as well. Those are just the difference there. So DS percentage or difficulty score, sometimes we'll call it difficulty percentage, sometimes we'll call it difficulty score. But basically, this is a score that we use a bunch of tools. It's not specifically for us in-house. I believe Moz created the original version of it, but there's a bunch of imitators out there, and we use a bunch of tools to kind of mimic that, just so that we really know what's going on. But basically, difficulty score is saying you search something and it's going to give you a scale from 1 to 100 and say it's this difficult to get rankings in this for this term. So this is super, super handy to kind of give us an at-a-glance percentage and know how competitive it's going to be to do a campaign. It's one of my favorite metrics there is, so I use it all the time. So diving into the tools, I know we're a couple slides away now, but Keywords Everywhere is crazy and super important. So, and it's free. I think all you got to do is give them your email address or something like that. But basically, we're going to use Keywords Everywhere to start digging and mining for keywords. Basically, we're digging for diamonds here because throughout the keyword research process, it may go on and on and on, and you just feel like you're getting nowhere, and then all of a sudden there's a diamond, and you've got it, and that's the one. We have fortunately have been building a library. Okay, Keywords Everywhere is an amazing Chrome extension we use every single day. So every time I'm looking on Google, I have it loaded, and it's basically giving me an idea of every single word or phrase I ever search on Google. I'm able to kind of, put in the back of my brain and know that, oh, this might be a beneficial keyword one day if somebody ever approaches us or I decide to launch a company in that space. So two different metrics that we're going to pay very close attention to with Keywords Everywhere are cost per click, which we talked about just a little bit ago, and search volume. So here's a perfect example of how it loads here. So you'll see over on the right hand side, you'll see related keywords based off of what you search, and it'll kind of show you, it says VOL in that second column, and it will say, the search volume for any individual keyword. So right now we're looking at roofing Miami, and you can see right under the, the default Google search box, you'll see volume : 1900 a month, and then we'll give you that cost per click, which people are paying as of last week or whenever I took this screenshot, $9.09 per click. Now these are always fluctuating, but it's good to keep track of when you did the original research, because all of these numbers are going to increase as advertising, search engine optimization and AdWords get more popular. And then you can see that Keywords Everywhere has its own variation of that difficulty score. They call it competition. So super handy. And then you can see over in that right hand column, like I kind of talked about, there's a bunch of different variations of the keyword. So this is where we gather all that information. So you're going to put in roofing Miami in your spreadsheet. In the next column, you're going to put in the search volume column, you're going to pull that 1900, and you're just going to keep doing this over and over and over again. You're going to go look at all the variations that you see over on the right hand column, and you're going to pull those: roofing repair Miami, as opposed to roofing Miami. Then I would switch them around, do Miami roofing, Miami FL roofing, Miami Florida roofing, or roofing Miami Florida. These are all different terms that have their very own search volume. So we can kind of talk about the ins and outs of that, but you want to keep track of everything and compile all the data, as much data as possible, so that you have the best understanding of what's going on in the space. So this was just the Miami example. This is the same thing across every single industry, every single search on the internet. There's different competitive levels. Some people are just ranking there by default because Google doesn't have anybody else to put in that spot. And then sometimes it's incredibly competitive, like this Miami one. Still completely doable, but it's very competitive. Next thing we want to look at here is these other data points. So these are the tools that we're going to use to find, what are we looking for here? Domain authority and page authority. So, oh, and also our difficulty score percentage. So to find all of these different variations, we use Ahrefs, Moz, and Moving Mountains. Now, our buddies in a private networking group have a piece of software that compiles all of this data for us. So unfortunately right now, because we don't have a public version, you're going to have to go out and use these individual tools to compile this data. But we have a pretty cool tool that loads similar to this. So if we were to search that Miami, Florida, and scroll down to see the organic listings, the top 10 rankings there, this is what we would see when our custom tool is loaded. So basically what this is doing is showing us, all the different data points. It's showing us DA, PA for every individual of the top 10 positions here. It's showing how many links are pointing to that page, how many referring domains, how many websites are pointing, how many .gov sites, how many .edus, a citation flow, trust flow, Alexa ranking, how many social shares. It's showing us a ton of data. But basically what we want to focus on is this DA, PA, and links. Links we'll talk about a little bit more down the road, but DA and PA is super important. So if you were to come in here and say you did all the research for your company and you knew that you were at DA 15, then you would be able to look at these guys and say, okay, the number one ranking site's HomeAdvisor. That's a huge site. We're probably not going to outrank them just because they're a crazy authority and Google puts them everywhere. So ignore that one. That's an 87. That's completely out of reach. It is possible to rank above those guys, but we don't need to talk about that right now. We're just doing basic research right now. So the number 2 spot, tsroofingsystems.com. Now they're at DA 31. You're at DA 15. So that shows you need to double your domain authority just to play ball with these guys. As we scroll down a little bit lower, you'll start to see some oddballs like number 4 there, roofing.miami. Now they're only a DA 9, but that keyword is in their domain name and Google gives a ton of power to that. So that's one of the reasons, and they have a ton of links. That's one of the reasons why they're showing up there. Anyway, I don't want to dive too far into detail, but basically you would use Moz and Ahrefs and SEMrush and different tools to determine, look at all these competitors and see where they are at compared to you, and to kind of give you a game plan of what kind of growth you need to put into place. Next thing, this is kind of how our custom tool loads. Now you'll see at the top there under Roofing Miami, you still have that keywords everywhere thing or info. But below that, under that about section, you'll see our custom thing. So it'll say, this one says 1600, so it's a little bit lower than that 1900, and the cost per click's a little bit lower. So those data points are always a little bit different. But the one thing we want to point out here is that keyword difficulty. Now Moz is going to give you the same thing if you use their tool, but sometimes it's a little bit slower, and I think it might be a premium version now. And since we have this custom tool, this is what we use. So you're going to want to keep track every single search you do, search volume, cost per click, and that difficulty score, because that's really, really important. Now difficulty, 33% may seem pretty low on a scale from 1 to 100, but once you get into the 20s, 30s, and 40s, that's pretty much where local companies are battling it out. Once you get in the 40s, it's pretty competitive. So this is a good campaign. It's an aggressive one. You're going to have to go pretty hard to get these rankings, unless you're already a dominant force in some other city. But still, you need to build up time and energy and prove to Google that you deserve that spot. So those are a couple different things we want to point out there. Next thing we need to do is a website analysis. Now, I've been talking forever. I think we're only like halfway through this video. So let's start jamming through this. So this website analysis, basically we need to look at your website and make sure that we've gone through everything to then be able to look at the competition, kind of like we did with those other tools, but I didn't really go into detail, just so that we have a really good understanding. So what do we need to do for on-page optimization on your website to make sure that the right keywords, Google can visit your website and know exactly what's going on, exactly where they need to put you, those type of things. So the first thing is titles and meta descriptions. We need to have the keyword or the variation of the keyword in those. Whatever page you have set up, maybe it's your home page that you want to rank, and that's your sole city, and you do one service and you want to rank in one area. Maybe that's it, and you put the keyword in the title and meta, and then maybe your brand name, something like that. We'll dive into that later on, but I'm just hitting the basic points here. Content. You want to make sure that the content on your website is reflecting what you want to rank for. Images and videos, very similar with the content. It's pieces of the content, but you want the same thing to happen here. Internal linking structure. So you don't want a one-page website. You don't see one-page websites ranking. They do look beautiful. They are user-friendly. And, I'd prefer to have a one-page website a lot of the times. But if Google's looking at stuff, they want an authoritative website. They want your website to answer a ton of questions. They want it to be a good user experience. So you need to have multiple pages talking to each other throughout your website to prove that you're not just, you're not a dentist site trying to sell roofing leads or something ridiculous that, it does happen every once in a while when there's a weirdo out there. So you want to make sure that all the pages on your website are about similar things. There's no real overlap, but they are linking throughout to each other. Now, that's way more complicated than what I just said, but this is an overview. So next thing, we're going to look at one of the best tools there is when you're on a WordPress platform, which is what we suggest, and that is Yoast. So there's all-in-one SEO plugin, and then there's Yoast SEO and like Project Supremacy, and there's a whole list of them. But Yoast is one of the most popular ones. I've been using it for like 8 years or something ridiculous, and it's always getting a little bit better. But basically, when you go and build a page on WordPress or on your website, say you're building a Miami roofing page specifically, and this was your landing page where you're going to gather leads and inform your clients and show off testimonials so that people trust you and call you. Yoast gives you an amazing platform here, so you can come in here and just basically edit snippet, click that edit snippet button, and then you can change any of this text here. So where it says Yoast SEO, you would put roofing Miami, top rated, whatever your roofing company name is, top rated in Florida or something like that. Something that's going to catch people's attention. Don't put it exactly what your competitors have. Make it unique. Maybe put your phone number in there so people don't even have to visit your website. If they're in an emergency, they can call you right off the bat. And this gives you an opportunity to, change different aspects of the titles, the metas. You can even put a focus keyword on here, and it will give you a little green, yellow, orange, depending on, where your optimization level is. Next little clip here is basically these are just split into two, but basically it's one. So the left-hand section is usually on top here, and it's going to break down a bunch of different bullet points and kind of give you a score. So it's going to look at the content on your website and say, okay, you're trying to rank for this focus keyword, Yoast SEO. In this example, we'd more likely be looking at roofing, dental, law, something like that. And it's going to tell you, hey, you need your keyword in this page. Make sure to say it more than twice, but don't say it this many times. It's going to say your SEO title's too short. It's going to give you a bunch of things. And this is a really good roadmap, but it's only a piece of the puzzle. So, everything's with a grain of salt here, but in the SEO world, everybody has their own ways of doing things. But if you follow Yoast, then you're going to be on a great path. And if you have any questions, just let us know, because this stuff gets crazy complicated. Next thing we're going to talk about, that was, the on-page optimization, doing things on your website, so that you can be set up and know that when you go and do your competitive analysis and you're looking in depth at your competitors, seeing what keywords they rank for, what are they advertising for, how much are they spending on advertising, kind of estimate what kind of budget you need, because they're already on top and you want to be there. Then you're going to be in a good spot. So what do we need to look at in this competition analysis to really have a good idea of what's going on? So link quality and quantity. So you always hear quality versus quantity, quality over quantity, but sometimes it's both. And maybe maybe way back somebody got away with something because Google's algorithm was old and outdated, and every once in a while things, kind of sneak past their updates. Sometimes you'll see some really, really low quality stuff out there that's highly ranked, just because they've been that authority for so long. Now you want to look at that stuff and know that, okay, I need to build high quality links, and I need to build, a certain percentage of the amount of links that they already have. Yeah, that's kind of a bullet point there. Anchor text ratio. So we'll talk about that in just a second, but basically every link out there on the internet that points back to your website. So you're reading a blog and it's about you. It's a great write-up. It's on Forbes.com or, whatever. Home Advisor, something like that. AVVO, however you pronounce that. There's a blog written about you guys, and you see your brand name and it's hypertext, and you can click on it. Whatever that link says, that text right there, Google pays so much attention to that. And they know exactly what ratios and what different types of links come back to your website. So we need to pay close attention to what the competitors are doing, because they may be over-optimized or severely under-optimized, and we can dive right in and dominate that way. It also gives you, that anchor text also gives you a really good idea of what needs to be used on the top ranking sites to outrank them, because it's already working. So you also want to check spam and penalty checks. I'm not going to dive too far into this because everyone does a little bit different, but basically there's ways you can look it up on Google to check and see how come I'm not ranking, or how come they're ranking. Maybe they did something and half of their website's ranking but the other half isn't. Maybe there was a competitor there last week and today they're completely gone because of an update. You can kind of check and see what's going on there. It's really good to know how to do those types of things. On-page optimization. You want to check everything that we just previously checked for our website. We want to check on their websites. So we can lay out and say BillyBobsRoofing.com totally sucks in Chicago. They're trying to rank for Chicago, but they forgot to put the keyword on the page, and they accidentally pulled over content from another city. Oops. Opportunity for you. You can go in and do way better. So how do we find some of those things that we just talked about, those metrics? This is a screenshot of Ahrefs. Ahrefs is beautiful, and it's super nerdy here, but it gives us so much data, and we just love it. So pay real close attention to that DR, which is Ahrefs' equivalent of domain authority. Then backlinks, how many links are coming to your website or your competitor's website, whoever you're looking at here. I've kind of cut off the top of Ahrefs here, but because there's so many things to do in the software, but this is a really important dashboard just right here. So backlinks, referring domains, how many different websites are pointing to you and creating those that 1,500 backlinks. How many keywords are you ranking for right now? Looking down at referring domains right here in the middle, you can kind of see over time, you can see the growth of your website. This is showing you how many live links are pointing to your site. What we're looking for here is giant spikes or drops. Those usually happen when you rebuild a website or maybe a Google update and a lot of websites went down. I don't know. There's many different things that could happen, but basically you're making sure that you're growing up and to the right every time. Next shot we're going to look at is specifically their anchor text page. So just like I said a minute ago, when you're reading a blog and you can click on a link, Google wants to know what that link is. They're tracking that, and they're tracking all of, say you have 1,000 links, that's 1,000 different anchor texts that they're tracking, and they know exactly what type of links happen naturally, what those anchor texts say. And Ahrefs does a really good job of tracking it all in a visible page here. There's also another tool that I forgot to mention earlier that's called Majestic. They'd put it into a beautiful pie graph. I've kind of strayed away from Majestic, not for any specific reason, just because Ahrefs kind of kills it these days. But I do miss that pie graph that Majestic uses. So right off the bat, you can see at the top here, they've got 15% of their referring domains are their URL branded link, and then 15% are a variation of that. Then you've got what we like to call others, which is sometimes punctuation and random things get linked. I don't know how that happens, it just does. The internet's a crazy place. This is all really natural stuff. So if you were looking at your competitor and you saw them ranking number 1, they've been there forever, you know they're not doing anything sketchy, then you can look at these percentages and kind of mirror, just replace your brand name, those type of things. We'll talk about linking and how to create things down the road in a few weeks, but this gives you a real good understanding. You've got a lot of branded stuff, and then you'll see scattered in there, you've got the Miami roofing keyword or variations of that. Super important to understand this stuff. And I know it is pretty advanced, but if you do it wrong, it will hurt you. So Google's really smart these days. Next page we're going to look at is also in Ahrefs, and this is where we compare the competition. So this is really good for showing us in a quick view that domain rating, or that domain authority as we call it. You can see right across the top row there, you've got 15, 1, you've got one that's not even showing up, a 14, and a 4. So why it's not showing up, they could be hiding their information from different bots. Some SEOs do that, whatever. It used to be popular back in the day. Another column we want to look at is referring domains, or ref domains. There you can see how many websites they've got pointing to them. All this is giving you an accurate understanding of what's going on in your space and what you need to do to outrank the competition. So if I was in Miami, I would say, okay, we probably need to build 100, 150 links, something like that, to absolutely crush it and be better optimized, build way better content, answer all the questions that the customer is going to potentially have in our content, and make sure everybody's talking about you so that Google knows, yep, they're optimized perfectly for this. This is what they do, where they do it, and people love them, and then get other websites to talk about you. That's the whole strategy boiled down into 2 seconds. But this is a really good dashboard. I highly suggest using it. Next thing we're going to do here is the final stages of all of this data that we've gone through, all these tools. We're going to determine a strategy. So what do we need to do? Basically, to determine the strategy, the whole strategy is to pick a keyword. Basically, it all boils down to picking what keywords you want, and then using the formula we have here to determine basically what keywords. So you reverse engineer from our very first questions back in the exploration form. How many leads do I need per month to close X amount of deals? So then you take it all the way back to your Keywords Everywhere plugin, our Chrome extension, and you gather that spreadsheet and you look at all these. You say, okay, I need to rank for this one or these 15 keywords, whatever the combination is, to get to the search volume to get the amount of links and traffic, and then convert them at this percentage so that you know exactly how many sales you can get on average per month. Now, we have a really specific formula that we can go in farther in detail for that, but basically you're going to use all of that formula back there to lay it into this information, or this spreadsheet, all that information into the formula. I did that backwards there. Take this information, put it into that formula, and you'll be able to say, okay, I need one more keyword, and then I'll hit my goal of traffic of 800 people a month to visit the website, and I'm going to convert it this percent, and that's going to get me that many leads, and that's kind of how you go over it. So that pretty much wraps up this video. That is our audit stage, our research and development stage. This is how now this is pretty in depth. Usually it takes us 3 to 5 days. The team does a super in-depth analysis. You can contact us if you want. We can do that for you, whatever you want, or we can even answer some questions for you. But basically that gave you a good broad strokes overview of how we do it. And we use that strategy to determine the rest of, say it's 6 months, say it's 10 months, say it's 12, maybe it's in 2 years that you're going for some insanely competitive national term. That pretty much lays it out though for you. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to hit up me or Josh, hit us up on social, whatever you want. Another video will be coming here soon. I don't know if it'll be me or Josh, but we'll be hitting phase 2, which is, what do we got here? Let's go back. What do we got? A working WordPress website. So in stage 2, we're going to be talking about everything you need on your website, why we'll talk about, you know, why you need WordPress. What are the few things that you have to do on your website, the handful of things you have to do on your website to get Google to know about you. And yeah, we'll lay out a bunch of the specifics there. So that one's going to be super important. And, you know, as we go on through here, every single one of these is stacking. So if you miss one, or you don't do one correctly, or you have questions and you forget to ask, make sure you watch this video over again, or you come back and ask us questions, something, so you don't get to stage 5 and realize that you did all your research and you're building out a huge link strategy for a keyword that completely sucked. You know, you don't want to do that. So that's it for now. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and if you want to schedule a meeting with Josh or I and go over some in-depth stuff, so you know, maybe how we can even help you, go to movingmountains.io/schedule and yeah, book a time, book a slot. It's completely free. Talk to you guys soon.